How did Adolf Hitler get away with the Battle of the Bulge and almost turn the war around in World War II? How did he catch the Americans and the British absolutely napping? Well, the answer is the Enigma machine. We talked about it the last couple of history videos. Hitler had this Enigma machine, which was a coding device the Allies could never break. And they finally figured out to break it, they invented the world's first computer by Alan Turing, and that broke the code. And as a result, we were able to deceive Hitler about where the Normandy invasion was going to come. And he held back the armored units until after the divisions had had 3 or 4 weeks to develop a foothold. And as a result, the Allies were successful. Now, let's carry that story a little bit forward. When the Allies secured the beachhead in Normandy, they didn't secure a hell of a lot, because the Normandy is hedgerow country. These big, high hedges, usually 8 or 9 feet tall. You can't see over them, you can't see through them. And Hitler and his forces would be hiding behind the hedgerows, and then the American military would attack, and you had to wipe out each of those hedgerows, one after the other after the other. And it was taking forever. The military had fallen 4 or 5 weeks behind its agenda. And Montgomery was even worse. He was still tied up in Cannes, a city he was supposed to conquer in the first day after the landings. So Eisenhower was very frustrated, and he came up with a very novel plan. He got a hold of Cap Arnold, the head of the Air Force, and he said, what I want to do is to get all your aircraft for 1 day. And he took an area of a couple of square miles right around Saint-Lô in Normandy. And he threw every plane the Allies had at it. No more strategic bombing of Germany, no more other bombing. Every bomb fell on that little segment. It was such that a bomb fell on every square yard of territory. Nobody could survive that bombardment. And the few Germans that managed to survive it were totally dysfunctional. They were completely made insane as a result of the bombing, if they were still alive. And then the Allies broke through. Nothing stopped them. And they almost went all the way to Berlin. And fast forward to Christmas, just before Christmas of 1944. Everyone assumed the war would be over in a couple of weeks. In fact, people were hoping they'd be home by Christmas. And then Hitler developed a secret plan to husband all his resources, call troops back from the Eastern Front, mass them all by the Argonne Forest on the border between France and Germany, where he had originally broken through in the offensive that led to the conquest of France earlier in the war. And Hitler threw everything he had into this, and it became known as the Battle of the Bulge. And the Allies were caught totally by surprise. They didn't have any inkling that this was happening. So how did Hitler get away with it? After we had read his mind, his plans, and everything all during the war, how could he pull this off? Well, the answer is he got wise. He realized that we were reading his signals. He realized we'd broken his code. And he ordered that there be not one word said over the radio about any of these troop movements prior to the Battle of the Bulge. And Eisenhower had gotten so dependent on reading these Enigma intercepts that he thought that he would be privy to any plans that Hitler was making. So if it wasn't in the intercepts, it wasn't happening. But it was happening. And Hitler broke through on a wide front and moved very decisively into Belgium and into northern France. And it looked like he might reach the port of Antwerp, which would have cut the Allied armies in half and could have been a very serious blow. Unfortunately for us, the weather was bad, and we couldn't bring our air power to bear. Fortunately for us, we had a general named George Patton, and he was engaged about 100 miles further south in the Saar region by Alsace and Lorraine. And Eisenhower said, George, you got to help us. You got to bail us out. And Patton turned 2 entire divisions around and moved 100 miles north in like 2 days, something that is almost impossible to do. Engaged the enemy, relieved Bastogne, which was the point of the German siege, broke the German offensive, and ultimately the Battle of the Bulge backfired, cost Hitler whatever remaining reserves he had, and he lost the war 4.5 months later. But it was so interesting to see how this Enigma machine breakthrough ultimately hurt us. So thanks very much for watching. On Monday, we'll be back to the usual lunch alerts, and tune in every Saturday for these history videos if you like them. We're getting about 25,000 people each time now.